Joining me now is Savinay Berry, VP Cloud Services for OpenText. Savinay, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, thanks for having me.
Tell us about exactly what OT2 is, how it works.
Yep. So OT2 was created on a completely new technology stack. So what we had to do was we went back to the drawing board and said, we are creating this solution for the next 5, 10, 15 years. We need to make sure that we're using the best of breed for all solutions. That was one design principle. The second design principle was we didn't want to spend a lot of money on third-party software because sometimes that third-party software becomes obsolete. So we wanted to go with open source as much as possible. Why? Because open source has the advantage of having millions of developers who are creating their IP, and we get to leverage it and we get to contribute back to it. So it's a win-win. And as a result of that, what we chose was, OpenText Cloud to start with, the infrastructure as OpenText Cloud to start with. But then on top of that, we had our platform as a service layer, sometimes called as the PaaS layer. And we selected Cloud Foundry for that. Cloud Foundry is an open source solution, and we're using the open source version of that. There is a commercial version as well. We're not using that, we're using the open source version. And then on top of that, we used a bunch of other tools for monitoring, logging, like Kafka, like New Relic, like Elk. These are some open source solutions that are out there. And so we built this up from ground up, and then what it helped to do was, as we were building the services as well, the services have a very clear standard. They use something called as a Spring Boot standard, and with a REST endpoint on top. These are industry standards, everybody's adopted it. If there's a developer out there who's using any of this to build applications, know exactly what it means, they don't need to get trained on it, so it's quick. And that's how we built this entire stack up. The applications themselves have a standard UI. So they use something called as a Smart UI from OpenText. And that UI has a UI widget library. So again, I described Lego blocks earlier, the different microservices. Think of these as the pictures on top of those Lego blocks. And in this case, these pictures are in a little library and a little index. So you have all the Lego blocks, then you have all those pictures, you combine the blocks, you combine the pictures, and boom, you have an application which is not just a simple, frivolous application, it is a deeply, deeply complex application, but built in an extremely simple way.
Wow, so there's a lot going on there. We've heard as well about how OT2 is a platform for innovation, how it's going to enable customers to build their own IP on top of it. Can you give us some examples?
Indeed, there are 25 million developers in the world. It's going to grow even further, and we want to be enabling all of those developers to build specific applications they want for needs that they have that we can't reach. Few examples. Workflow. There are workflow applications that some customers want to build in industries like transportation. They want to build their own applications. They don't want to use applications directly from us. Well, now they have an ability to take all of our services like capture services, workflow services, content services, IoT services, analytics services, and then be able to put it all together and create a specific workflow application for the transportation industry. Another one that comes to mind is life sciences. There's customers who want to be able to create clinical trial applications, eTMF applications, and they want to do that by getting a set of services that they can use to build those applications themselves, because they want to control the UI. Now they would be able to do that because we'll be able to provide those services to them using this developer platform as a means to do it. So those would be two examples, and I think we can keep going because this truly is going to be changing the way that we can reach our customers and our partners as well. Instead of just having 100,000 customers, we think we can have millions of customers because the number of developers that can start developing these applications will grow exponentially as well, and then they can start to reach out customers that we can't ever. So this is very exciting for us.
Absolutely, and we'll be following this closely. Savinay, thanks very much.
Thank you for having me.